And we're live.
We're live?
We are live.
Episode 2 today, huh?
Episode 2.
Oh my gosh. You know, it was funny because we were talking about it a few days ago, obviously when we did our first episode, like how many times we were going to do or being consistent with this podcast. And obviously we're trying to at least get one in a week. Now we've already gotten 2, so we've gotten double the content already.
I'd say that's pretty good. I think we're doing pretty well.
It's pretty damn good, to be honest.
Yep.
So for the viewers at home, today's topic that we're going to be discussing, and this was brought to my attention by Coach Dan, which I thought was a great topic to discuss about, was the differences between a skills coach, a strength and conditioning coach, and a performance coach. Am I not mistaken, Coach?
Yeah.
A lot of coaching, like what the
I
word
think
coach in there.
yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion out there as to what's important, what's more important.
Elaborate.
You know, so this comes a lot more from the basketball world for me, personally. I train a lot of basketball athletes.
Okay.
And to me, basketball culture has always been about playing basketball. Weight room and performance training has never been a deep part of the culture of basketball, which I think is a little bit of a shame if you ask me. I think a lot,
Do you think it's because of the amount of marketing and advertising with regards to being able to dribble a ball, being able to shoot the ball, being able to move well with the ball and stuff like that? You know, like just being able to play the game in all different types of aspects.
I think what's huge, too, is basketball is readily available no matter where you are.
It's true.
You
So
see
true.
courts and playgrounds in urban areas, in rural areas, no matter where you are.
Anyone can play it.
Anybody can play it at any
sure.
time. So therefore, the game is always available to you. Whereas a sport like, let's say, football, where the performance aspect and weight room aspect is huge,
Vital.
the sport itself is not always readily available because, first of all, you need 22 men to play a full game.
Yeah.
Basketball, you need 5-on-5, a lot less in that manner.
And at some points, you can do 3-on-3. There are different leagues and different, pick-up
Exactly.
games
And
stuff like
basketball, you could play one-on-one. Football, you're always going to need a quarterback.
that. True.
And then what, you're going to do one-on-one? It's just not the same. The culture's not the same. So
Gotcha.
this kind of entails to basketball, I'll have a lot of athletes or basketball athletes maybe not show up to a training session here because they're going to their skills trainer. Now, I'm not trying to discredit any skills trainer because it's important, but if you had to choose between one, which one will hold more weight and provide the most return on investment is what I'm looking into.
Now, let me ask you, when you say, like, the return on investment aspect of it, obviously we know being able to be skillful in that type of sport setting is vital, correct? Us being performance coaches, too, I think we tend to have a little bit of a bias towards how valuable, the strength and conditioning side is.
I'm 100% biased.
Of course. But that going off of that, being a strength and conditioning or performance coach, what have you, I look at it like this, and I'll use the game of basketball, like you mentioned, because, again, it's readily available to us. When it comes to the value of a strength and conditioning coach, my biggest thing is obviously increasing performance and longevity, right? Being available, is whether it's in the professional level, college, high school, youth, it's, are you available to play? If you're not available, then you're really no good. So, it's good to know the different movements, being able to, dribble the ball efficiently, being able to move efficiently and stuff like that. But at the same time, too, all right, if you're not strong enough, if you're not, and I hate using this word, explosive or powerful enough, or if you're not healthy enough to play the game, what good are you? I think skills can be taught and learned over time.
See, I think that's huge because let's think of it this way. If you are training with a skills coach and you're training specific skills all the time, whether you're shooting the ball, you're dribbling the ball, there's a certain group of muscles you're using every single time.
True.
So you're getting real strong in one area, but the areas where you're not training, you're getting deficient in a manner, right? So part of the biggest world in strength training and performance training is evening out those deficiencies, creating injury resilience. So I think my biggest argument would be is if you had to choose between one, it's more vital for you, for your career, for your longevity, to go the strength and conditioning coach or performance coach, which we can talk about the differences in a little bit.
Absolutely.
But because again, like you said, the best ability is availability.
100%. And
So-
you use that term a lot, which is why I bring it into play in this, because, again, you see a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, a lot of college athletes, a lot of professional players. It's crazy to see how, like, injury prone they really are. When strength and conditioning programs are not implemented, or any type of strength and conditioning coach isn't implemented into their routine of training, quote unquote. So yeah, again, it's vital for them to learn the X's and O's, learn the movements and stuff like that to that specific sport. But if by chance they're not at that high level performance, or not healthy enough, again, those X's and O's, those movements, those skills aren't really that valuable. And again, those type of skills can be taught, preferably at a young age, but it can be taught later on. Where again, I think it's even vital to start kids strength training at an earlier age than in high school.
I agree.
But no, and it's funny you mentioned in regards to the differences between a performance coach and strength and conditioning coach. Would you be able to elaborate on that?
Yeah,
go a little bit more in depth.
before again, I do want to make it clear that I do see importance in skills coaches.
Of course.
I don't want to downplay them or discredit them by any means. I think in a perfect world, a combination of the two is vital and necessary. I just definitely want to shine light on the advantages that you receive when you're training with a strength and conditioning coach or a performance coach. But now let's get into that. So
Absolutely.
the differences between a strength and conditioning coach and a performance coach. I kind of want you to start in this one. I want to see your perspective, and we'll go from there.
I think with regards to strength and conditioning, it's very one dimension. And when I say that, I'm talking from both whether the strength and conditioning coach in the professional, college, and as well as in the high school levels. It's more focused on keeping the athletes healthy, getting them stronger, faster. Where in the job of a performance coach, which you see, again, professional, college, high school, and even in the private sector, which is what we're in right now, we have a little bit more, and again, this is not me downplaying what a strength and conditioning coach does, but I think we have a little bit more variety, or a little bit more tools to our kit, where we work on obviously building up muscle, building up power and stuff like that in the weight room, but at the same time too, working on the fundamentals of speed training, working on the fundamentals of agility or multi-directional training, whatever you want to categorize it as. So I think we have a little bit more, again, tools in our bag in that sense. And when I say we, again, because we are considered performance coaches, some may consider us strength and conditioning coaches, but there is a difference in one. And I don't want to downplay what a strength and conditioning coach does, because they're just as their job is just as difficult, if not even more difficult, due to the capacity or the amount of athletes they have to work with in all levels of sports. And
Talking about in a collegiate or
in a
professional
collegiate
setting.
way. I mean, even to some degree, certain high schools. I know it's not as common, but yeah, I mean, college
It should
coaches,
be, though.
100%.
I think that's a huge topic that we should touch on. Maybe not right now.
Podcast it.
Podcast it.
Hashtag podcast.
But yeah,
love it.
I think all high schools should have a a certified strength and conditioning specialist on staff.
Absolutely.
I think it's huge. I think that's vital. But I think the most common thought is, if you were to ask any regular person, what is a strength and conditioning coach, they're going to think weight room first.
Exactly.
That's the first thing they're going to think. Whereas, to be honest, if you ask any regular person, what is a performance coach, they might not have a direct
Pause.
answer for you. They might think about it and be like, well, what do you mean? Like, you mean acting or like, stage performance? But I think my point is, it's like a chicken or the egg thing.
True.
What came first? Is performance coach a branch of strength and conditioning, or is strength and conditioning a branch of performance? So I think you can argue both ways. As I'm thinking about it now, hey, and so everybody knows, we did very little preparation before this. This is like literally these thoughts are coming in my head
right
right
off
now.
the top of our head.
Right now. As I'm saying it, I think strength and conditioning is a branch of performance. Because when I look at a lot of these colleges now and I look at the staff, a lot of colleges say, head strength and conditioning coach, head strength coach. But then there are some that say head of performance. So I think that is huge. Which came first?
Here's the funny thing. So I'm gonna be like the devil's advocate in a way, or at least I'm saying it right. But I'm gonna sort of like go against what you're saying, and this is why I say this. I don't know the exact name, and we can fact check it. But I know like the grandfather of strength and conditioning was a coach at Nebraska University, or University of Nebraska, excuse me. And obviously, that was back in, I believe, like the 1960s or so, with regards to their football program, and how not a lot of programs back in the day incorporated strength training, or what is now called strength and conditioning training. And once they've seen the development of how stronger and faster a lot of the athletes became, then it's branched off since then, and it's become such a pinnacle and such a vital aspect of overall, athlete development, whether you're in the college, professional, high school, youth, what have you. So I want to say, from a historical standpoint, quote unquote, I would say performance coach was developed off, or was created based off of strength coach, only because of the variety, right? Because again, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, as time progressed, it was the whole concept of strength training was, like you said, get stronger. But there's so many different aspects of training in today's day and age where it's speed training. You have speed coaches. It's, like you said, skill specific training. It's multi-directional training where you have coaches just for that. And then obviously performance training, where you have coaches that have all those different umbrellas in one, and they're able to obviously coach that in all types of athletes, or help athletes train in all those different type of concentrations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go and sort of, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to go and disagree, just to, obviously, people that are listening to this, feel free to, give us some input, or give us what your thoughts are in regards to, like the whole chicken or the egg. Do you think it's, sports performance training came from strength, or vice versa, where strength training came from performance training? Because again, Coach Dan believes it in one sense, I believe it in another sense, but like you said, it's like the chicken or the egg. Who knows?
And I think everything has evolved over time.
100%.
Everything has evolved over time, because I think getting strong has always been a priority. The methods of how you're getting strong is what has evolved over time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's huge to note, and huge. The biggest thing is you can't have necessarily one without the other. You get an athlete ridiculously strong in the weight room, but if they can't move efficiently, you did a disservice to that athlete.
Absolutely.
Because since they can't move efficiently and they're so strong, they might be real prone to injury. Now, in the same sense, you get an athlete who moves very well but is also weak with their own body weight. You again did a disservice to that athlete, because they can move very well, but they can't apply the proper amount of force or the proper amount of eccentric control on deceleration, where now they're prone to injuries. Go ahead.
No, it's funny you said that, because you just sparked something in my head. And again, a lot of this is off the top of our head and just our general knowledge and just discussing this. But when it's funny that, with strength training and all this stuff, obviously it's essential and it's vital getting our athletes stronger. But do you think in a progression of that, or like the main focal point, you're saying movement, do you think movement is the key factor to that before, incorporating all the other intricacies, all the other, details of whether it be, agility, or whether it be just main strength training, power movements and stuff, plyometrics, all that stuff? Would you categorize as having an athlete understand how to move properly than just, all right, they could squat 300, 400, 500 pounds. That's great, but how is that helping them? How's that helping their performance? How's that helping the team? So what would you, I sound like a run-on record player, but broken record player, but would you think that the movement component, teaching kids how to move properly, teaching athletes how to move, is the most vital component of that, or?
Well, I think I'd 100% agree, because there's multiple levels to movement. So there's movement on your field of sport, or your court, or whatever it is, but there's also movement in a weight room.
Yes.
You can squat this weight, but are you efficiently squatting this weight?
And can it transfer?
Exactly. So how can you transfer that weight that you can squat now to the field? And then again, movements all over the weight room: squat patterns, hinge patterns, press, push, press, push,
Yeah, absolutely.
pull. Like, movement is everywhere. So I think movement is the hierarchy of everything,
And everything's
and everything's breaking down from
like a
your
pyramid
ability to
effect.
move.
Absolutely.
And then there's, like I said, there's different aspects to that movement, whether it's movement in a strength sense, movement in an athletic sense. I think movement is that hierarchy.
It's funny because when I first got into this industry and I first started working here at Parisi's, obviously learning the fundamentals and going through the certification process with them about, speed training and stuff. Because I'll be honest, back in my days of, high school athletics and then, college and stuff like that, more or less it was considered strength training. That's what, strength and conditioning or whatever you want to call it. Where now, obviously, I understand what performance training really, exemplifies. But, coming into this industry, I had really no idea, speed training, all right, teaching kids how to run, like, how hard is that? But there are a lot of different modalities or different components to running that I had no idea existed. And then getting into here, I was like, dang, this is actually, I had no idea this was a thing until, I started working here. It's like, this is really vital, and it's actually very important, valuable information for kids and young athletes to learn. The reason I say that is because I feel like sometimes we get caught up with, this is how it is, whether it's from just because of history, they've done it for so many years, it's been effective with regards to strength and conditioning, programming, what's vital, exercises to do for overall strength development, where it's like we've said before, and especially in our first podcast, this industry, it continues to grow. There's always something new, technology, new movements, new progressions of stuff. So it's really interesting to see how, years ago it's probably just, get stronger. But now it's, no, we want to get stronger. We want to be faster. We want to be more mobile. We want to be able to obviously move on all different cylinders and at the same time be able to sustain a pretty lengthy career in our, field of play. So it's just, different things like that I never thought of when getting into this industry that I'm starting to learn now and still learning to this day.
I think we should say, especially at this point, shout out to Bill Parisi for pioneering this industry. Right?
100%. Bill, we will always shout you out. You are obviously one of the godfathers of this industry, opening up back in the early 90s. Hopefully get you on soon. But, again, I'm sure when he was getting into this industry and he was trying to explain himself as to what his methodology was, a lot of people probably thought and looked at him like, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. No, just get him stronger. I mean, back then, people were thinking if you got someone stronger, it was going to slow them down. And it was the complete opposite. Them getting straight, they understood, to some degree, were able to apply more force, be able to, again, have that transferability onto the field. And, they were kicking people's butts in whatever, whether it be football, basketball, what have you. So it's very vital to some extent. But
it's just so crazy how much this industry evolves and then sometimes goes almost back. So
what do you think?
Just like you just said, everything is all about getting stronger. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, if you keep lifting, it's going to slow you down. So you got to move. Oh, wait, you got to apply this amount of force. In order to do that, you have to get stronger. All right, so get stronger. Everything is always going back and forth. And I think at the end of the day, people need to realize, and again, it goes back to episode 1 talking about egos, people need to realize you need a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's just got to be dosed in the right amount. And the dosage, the prescription is different based on the athlete that's standing in front of you.
It's funny because it's funny that you mentioned that because you've always used the term, it's dependent upon the athlete, whether it be programming, whether it be training and stuff like that. Do you think this also plays a factor into that too? We want to see progression in our athletes in the weight room, but we also want to see, the main thing is to see progression on the field of play. So when it comes to training, different methodologies and stuff like that, a lot of it's depending upon the athlete. Does one athlete need a little bit more strength training than the other? Does one athlete need a little bit more movement or speed training than the other? Elaborate on when you say depend upon the athlete, because a lot of people are probably listening to me what the heck does he mean by that? What the heck does Coach Dan mean when he says that? Sort of break it down.
I mean, the answer for everything, and it sucks in a way for the people that don't understand because they're not in it, but the answer is always it depends for everything.
Absolutely.
So some athletes will be able to handle more training in the weight room than others. So one of my favorite examples is what Bill Parisi talks about in his presentation. So he pulls up a picture in his presentations, and in the picture on the left side is a picture of Kevin Durant, who's a very tall, long, lanky, and on the right side is a picture of LeBron James.
Yeah, I remember this.
Arguably two of the greatest players in the world at their sport, basketball, right? So the point of this is if you took LeBron James and threw him through a heavy, intense weightlifting program in the weight room, he'll probably survive, he'll do really well, and he'll flourish.
Yeah.
If you threw Kevin Durant through the same heavy, intense weightlifting program, it might actually hurt his game based on what he needs and how his body is made up.
Of course.
So I think depending upon sport, genetic makeup, body makeup, anthropometrics, every athlete is different. Does every athlete need to strength train? Yes, to a degree, yeah.
Of course.
Some are going to need it more than others, right? Some are going to need to move more than others. Again, that's all goes into the art of being a coach, and why I think it's important to understand that everybody is going to be different.
And it's funny that you say that too, because this sort of brings everything to full circle to some degree. Going back to our topic about sports performance coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, skill specific coaches. But like with us, at least from our experience, well, I'll speak for myself, and then obviously I'll lead it to you. But like being able to work with different athletes in different levels of sports, you could sort of see, all right, this athlete needs this athlete needs that, this athlete needs to work on developing more force, this athlete needs to understand how to reach their stride capacity or their stride frequency when running. Whereas I feel like in a college setting, their main focal point is, all right, let's make sure they're staying strong, make sure they're getting stronger, make sure they're staying healthy, and then everything else comes into play. Everything's very more all right, this is how we program, this is what you're going to do. I'm sure there's evaluation process that they do when a lot of the freshmen are coming in, or every year, every quarter, whatever it is. But it's very regimented. Where as a performance coach, it's all right. We dealt with an athlete. We have to evaluate them. We have to see what their deficiencies are. We have to see what their strengths are, and then we develop off of that. Skill-specific coach is just all right. Again, I'm not hating on that. It's just working on the movement patterns of a said sport. So it's really weird how it sort of comes into full circle, like us talking about, obviously, you're bringing up Kevin Durant and LeBron James, how same sport, two different types of athletes, though, two different types of skill sets and abilities. And then, again, bringing it back to, what we have to deal with on a daily basis as to, all right, this athlete has to do this athlete has to do that. Because, again, we get different athletes given to us all day, every day, on top of, like, different age ranges, different abilities and such. Not saying that strength coaches don't, but they sort of understand, all right, this is what we're going to get. Boom. A, B, and C. This is what they're going to do. This is how, whether it be undulating periodization, linear periodization, what triphasic, what have you. This is their program. This is what they're going to stick with, and some it's worked for many years. So it's really interesting how it's, in a way, it comes into full circle with regards to athletes' development and growth, and how each type of coach, whether it be performance, strength and conditioning, skills specific, what they're dealt with and how they have to coach them through everything. So
yeah, I think we kind of beat that one down. I don't think there's much more to even talk about on
like
that
a
one.
dead horse, right?
Yeah,
just like going into it.
I mean, I love this stuff. I know you love this stuff. I'm sure we can keep going, but I just touched upon it before. I think let's get into it now. Why? Because I'm assuming, I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming you agree with me. Why does every high school in the country, why should they have a certified strength and conditioning coach on staff?
You asking me first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think first things first, I'm a huge believer in injury prevention. I think if you can prevent athletes from getting hurt early on in their career, it's going to do light years for them down the road, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. Because you see a lot of athletes, whether especially in high school, to get hurt early on, whether ACLs, MCLs, rotator cuff injury, stuff like that, that, you know, from a mental standpoint, they just don't want to continue on with their career. And some of them can play in that next level of college. Some of them possibly even professionals if they're, you know, that good, that skilled. So my biggest thing is definitely from an injury standpoint, obviously mental and physical. That being said, too, overall athlete development. You know, a lot of these kids, when they're in high school at 13, 14 years of age, they're still growing into their bodies. So why not develop them a little bit earlier? Why not, you know, especially in high school where, you know, the competition gets a little bit more, you know, vigorous. The amount of practices, the amount of games, you know, get extended. So the most important thing is, all right, let's get them bigger, faster, you know, stronger, more agile and such. Because at the end of the day, they're in it for the love of the game, but they're also in it to excel in that game. So that's my take on it. Agree, disagree? I mean, what do you think?
I agree with everything that you say. I think it's extremely vital. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head when you said injury prevention, teaching proper movement, preparing an athlete for the demands of the next level of the sport. What I think is also interesting is, and the reason why I say certified, let me be clear, I've come across plenty of coaches in my life, in my time as a coach, who are not certified, but I know they're great coaches. So I'm not saying a certification makes a coach, but the reason why I bring that up is we see it a lot here in Jersey.
Oh, absolutely.
How many football coaches claim themselves as strength coaches, come up with this off-season lift program that they give to their athletes that, you know, are more than likely not what the athlete should be doing. Not only that, they have lifts or specific exercises on this program that the athletes have no idea how to execute safely. So the biggest thing that comes to mind is here in New Jersey, a lot of the big high school, they do the hang clean or the power clean
Oh, God.
in their high school weight rooms, supervised more often than not by their high school coach or whoever they deem to be the team's strength coach.
And how does it look?
It looks awful.
Exactly.
Awful. So not only are you putting these athletes at risk by performing a lift that's highly technical and if done incorrectly has probably more risk than it will have return. And like that's the reason why I'm using the word certified. I'm not saying that if you're certified, you know, you're the greatest coach. I've come across plenty of coaches who are certified and I'm like, I don't know how you got that certification. But my point is that's why I bring that up. So I mean, we see it all the time.
Oh, absolutely. You gave a perfect example with regards to high school coaches being or claiming to be strength and conditioning coaches. And again, it's, to be honest, you see a lot of what they're doing or whatever their programming may be, and it's almost, it gets a little worrisome because it becomes a little bit more detrimental to the athlete, I feel like, than it is benefiting them. Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the idea of the weight room setting obviously is for athletes to sort of, well, the main thing is obviously to get stronger, but it gives the opportunity to grow as athletes, as men, as women, or what have you. And so when you have these coaches come in or, claiming to be strength coaches coming in and trying to, this is what we're doing, max effort today, max effort next week, this and that, or the programs or the circuit style. There's so many different programs out there. Some of them are, I don't want to use the word idiotic, but it's just very silly, to say the least. And for what? Get the athlete to sweat, get them, oh my gosh, getting them tired. What's the purpose of it? And again, I think especially when it comes to the high school level, that's really when the athlete's starting to grow. Obviously, we see a lot of more youth athletes, starting to train a little bit more. But especially the high school level where, again, they're trying to take their careers or their abilities to the next step. It's vital for them to definitely be strength training, but in the proper format, too.
Yeah, and my favorite is, because not all high school coaches will have their athletes clean or do an Olympic lift. But my favorite, it makes me laugh all the time, is when I talk to an athlete, say, oh, yeah, my coach gave me this program to do in the offseason. I'm like, all right, cool. What do they got you doing on Mondays or whatever? And they're like, all right, we're benching. I'm like, all right, cool, bench Mondays. That's great. What are you doing on Tuesday? Oh, we got back and buys. Okay. Wednesday, we got shoulders and tries.
Yep.
So like, oh, you play football, you bodybuilding.
Yes.
Which one are we
Oh
doing?
my gosh.
That's my favorite. But it's funny because, again, people that don't go through the education and don't educate themselves, that's what they think it is. That's all they think it is. I get it from parents, from the athletes I train. Like, that's what they think it is.
Do you think it's because it's stuff that they've done themselves? And
I think it's stuff they've done themselves, and also maybe even more so what the media
Oh, please.
puts out.
Shout
there.
out to Facebook, Instagram,
You know,
Snapchat, whatever
But
media
even that,
outlets
like
are out
even
there.
men's health, men's fitness,
Yes.
like real sport performance or performance training within a weight room setting, is not, and that's not discrediting bodybuilding training. That's tough training if you really do legit
Absolutely.
bodybuilding training.
And there's time and place to incorporate said training.
Yeah, when
But-
you're developing foundational. But at the end of the day, an athlete uses their entire body when they play a field sport.
Of course.
So why are they not using their entire body when they're training for said field sport?
Of course. Just let the record show, guys and girls. Obviously, educate yourself. If you're trying to get into this industry and become a better coach, become a better trainer, what have you, educate yourself. But get your information from the right places. Just because you saw a cool video on Instagram or this cool video on YouTube or what have you, doesn't mean it's great to use it right away. Especially on an athlete. All right. One thing I cannot stand seeing, and I think, to be honest, Coach, you see it a lot with high school athletes. It's very common. But when you see certain coaches or, quote unquote, said coaches in the field of strength and conditioning, they see a video over an athlete doing a clean to a jerk press, and, or God knows, with these different type of plyometric drills. And the coach is like, you know what? I'm going to try that. They try it on the athlete like they're a test dummy.
Meanwhile, they have no idea how to do it themselves.
Or what the use of it is for. Try it on an athlete. And then, a day or two later, the athlete comes in. Oh, coach, my back is killing me. Oh, my knees are shot right now. Oh, my gosh, my rotator cuff is killing me. I'm having trouble doing this, doing that. It's I don't want to say it's laughable because of what the coach is trying to do or where they're getting their information from, but it's scary.
It's a damn shame.
It's a damn shame, and they're not only doing justice to themselves as a coach, they're doing justice to the athletes themselves too. Because at the end of the day, they're entrusting you to get them better, to get them healthier, to get them stronger, to have them, progress in the field that they're in.
And the scariest part of that is what you said before all that is athletes buy in sometimes, unfortunately, to it because they don't do their own research. I think it's important for every athlete in the world to, like you said, educate themselves from the right source so they can be able to understand their own body and train themselves if need be. Now, I would always recommend have a professional coach with you to guide you,
Of course.
right? Because it's going to take the stress and pressure off yourself, but it's important to know why. One of the things I always tell my athletes, whether it's one-on-one, in a group setting, whatever it is, I always challenge my athletes to ask me why we're doing something. Challenge me, right? Challenge any coach you're with. And if your coach can't answer the question or looks a little unsure of their answer while they're answering the question, that's got to be a red flag.
It's funny you say that because one of the books I've read recently, I said recently, probably like a few months ago, but Every Day is Game Day by Mark Verstegen. He's one of the founders. I think he is the founder of Exos. And one thing he says in his book is, not only athletes, but coaches should always have an it statement. And it's going off of what you're saying, like that why. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose of doing this? And how is this getting me better? And again, once you have that out, or once you've stated that to the athlete and to yourself, then the athlete's going to more or less put all their trust into you. But then you as a coach, strength and conditioning, performance coach, skills, what have you, you've then now gained that trust. Now you have to go and execute and make sure that athlete excels, and also at the same time too, doesn't get effed up or anything like that.
Yeah, and so all the coaches out there that might be listening to this, that can make you better as a coach. As you're planning your sessions or planning your programs, as you're doing it, ask yourself, why am I doing this particular exercise with this particular intensity and volume? And be able to answer it each time.
Yeah. It's funny because obviously I'm not going to bring up names, but one of your athletes, a high-level athlete, soccer player that you've worked with for many years now, in the beginning it would give you a hard time. It's like, you spend so much time invested into this athlete, why is that? And you were, right then and there, stated it right to me. And it's funny, the reason why I say that is, I remember one time you were having, I guess, a little difficulties, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, like trying to break that barrier with that athlete. I remember you had that athlete in your office, and you had a sheet, and you sort of, in your sheet, and you could break this down if I'm stating this wrong, but answer this question: why are we doing this? Why do you like doing this? Why do you like playing this, the sport of soccer? Why are you trying to get better? And it, for better or worse, I think it's honestly helped develop the relationship with that athlete that you've had. To now that athlete's installed all the trust, the family's installed all their trust into you, into your program. I mean, you picked up this athlete, you've trained this athlete here, trained on the field, you've gone to games. I mean, you've developed such a strong relationship. You even went to this athlete's siblings' college soccer event down
North Carolina.
Down North Carolina, excuse me. So I mean. Did I miss?
No, I mean, I think
there?
it goes back to kind of what we touched upon a little bit in episode 1, which is the psychology of training. The purpose and the reason to why I did that is not only do I want to know my own why as to the specifics on the exercises or the program that I'm prescribing to this athlete, but I also want the athlete to understand why are they training, and I think that's huge. When you're a high level athlete, there's a lot that is involved in terms of, like we were just saying before, the skills portion of it, the practice portion of it, the game portion of it, the weightlifting portion of it. There is a lot involved, and if you want to be an elite high level athlete, you have to touch upon just about every category nearly every single day.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, mind you, recovery is key always, but it can become very repetitive and it can become very monotonous. Now, as coaches, it's our job to keep athletes engaged, but I want to make sure my athlete always knows why they're training. Because if they lose that why, regardless of the power and the program that you're giving to them, if they don't know why they're training, then they're not going to get the same out of it as if they know exactly the reason they're there and the importance of them being there. Which is why I did what I did with that athlete.
Absolutely, and ladies and gentlemen, if you really think about it and you dive deep into the psychology aspect and the whole reasoning why, it's funny, bringing that up with the athlete that you've worked with. It's very common. I don't know the exact percentage, but there in sports psychology, there's a thing called burnout, where an athlete. The training, the practices, the games become so much, and they've done it for so long at a very young age, that eventually they lose that passion, that drive to continue playing said sport. And a lot of skilled athletes that could have gone on in a collegiate career, if not professional, tend to just drop it off after at high school, or I think it's mostly common in high school. So I think us as strength coaches, performance coaches, what have you, being able to get in tune, connect with our athletes, and always remind them the why or the it or what have you statement can sort of help that athlete grow and have them continue on. Because again, listen, the training is tough. That's a small portion of it. The practices, small portion. The other intricacies, very small portions, but they all add up to, obviously, when it comes to game day and them performing at a high level. It can make or break certain athletes if they don't continue having that drive. But if some of them always remember what their why or their it statement is, I mean, they can continue on having successful careers just because of that. And and again, I'm biased, but I attribute a lot of that to obviously us as performance coaches, because we spend a lot of time, if not most of the time, with these athletes.
I think it's important to know, especially as an athlete and as a coach, the why can change. It doesn't always have to be the same.
Absolutely.
Your original why may die or fade out, but you may have a new why.
Of course.
I mean, But as long as it always falls back to the fact that you love what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, it doesn't matter what your why is, because you have to have that love and passion behind anything you do. And that goes for a coach or an athlete. Usually athletes get into sports. Why? Because it's fun. They like it. They have fun when they're doing it. And then the fun develops into love. Now they love it. If you lose that love, there's no longer a why.
Yeah. It's funny because
I like that. We got to cut that. I like that part.
you just shut it off
I'm just saying that's the preview to this episode.
right there.
Right there.
You just ended.
I'm not trying to put myself. I'm
Wait,
bringing
so-
my ego into this.
Are we
Is
still
what I'm saying.
recording?
Yeah.
Oh heck yeah!
we're still
Okay, I didn't know
recording.
if you just shut it right off there.
We can. Hey.
So, I was like, oh my gosh, you had me motivated, and then I was like, bam, I was gonna follow that up. No, but it's so true, and just going off of what you just said, and also what we talked about on episode 1 earlier this week. Also remember this, like, a lot of us coaches wouldn't get into it if we didn't love sports too. Like a lot of us, played sports throughout high school, some of in college, and then we've hit our peak. Now we want to continue being a part of that realm of sports, and that's why we got into this, to help other kids, other young athletes, high school, college, what have you, grow and develop in their said field. All right? So just because, again, your why can always change. We're always here, though, to help figure out what that why is. And we used to have the same amount of passion, maybe sometimes have a little bit more due to certain circumstances, but as a performance coach, we're always here to assist athletes figuring out what their why reason is, so that, again, they can excel on the field. We can get good results in the weight room, in the training lab, what have you, and then obviously help them grow, as an athlete and as a young, man or woman. So it's again, going back to it's crazy how everything comes full circle in a way. And listen, I love how we started off with, the differences between, a skills coach, a sports performance coach, and a strength coach. If we led all the way to like the sports psychology of athletes and like their why statement, which I think again is a huge component when it comes to training.
I'm getting excited. This is fun.
I know, right? It's like smooth.
I like this.
I know. It's been good.
43 minutes.
Dang, 43 minutes in?
43 minutes.
It's funny because I'm like thinking around in my head. It's like, I wonder how like the flow of this has gone. But at the same time, and I'm sure that I've repeated myself like many times.
I think it was very organic, and I think it was very natural.
It has to be organic.
It has to be.
Listen, we can write. Obviously, we had the main topic, written out or in our heads. We discussed this prior to beginning this podcast. But at the end of the day, guys, just remember, like, a lot doesn't really correlate, obviously, to straight to conditioning. But like when doing this stuff, like Coach Dan and myself are so passionate about this that like. This is conversations we have off air, off the mic.
Which is the reason why we're doing this podcast.
Of course, because we want to be able to share our experiences, our knowledge to those that A, are, love strength and conditioning, love sports and stuff like that, and B, want to get into this said field. Just because, you may not be such a bookworm or this or that, doesn't mean you can't have passion for this and grow and become successful in this said field of sports performance training. So, I hope a lot of people know that if they're listening to this at probably 44, 45 minutes in, a lot of what we do is organic because we're just that passionate. We know our why statement. See what I did there?
Oh, I like what you did there.
Cheesy, right?
I think we could wrap it up, man.
Yeah?
I think that was a solid, more than solid episode 2 to the coach's table.
I'm excited because we just broke our record of 34 minutes, which was our first episode.
Was it 34?
It was 34 35, something like that.
It was 37.
36. See? Dang. we just went an extra 8, 9, 10 minutes over, and I'm just excited to when we go to 2 hours. Okay, I'm pushing the thread.
That's going to be a long time.
That's going to be a real.
I'd be happy to get a listener to stay listening for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say. And guys, again, if you are listening to this, portion of the podcast, thank you. We appreciate all, the people that are tuning in on this. Again, this is something that Coach Dan and I have been talking about for quite some time now, since getting back.
Quite some time.
Yeah. So we appreciate everyone that's tuning in on this. If you guys get any feedback from this or have any questions as to what we're talking about, Coach, do you want to give your Instagram handle?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at CoachDS_CSCS.
See, that's such a clean cut handle. Mine is at Adam.boss with 4 S's.
Four
Don't ask
S's.
why. That was the only thing available. I was trying to put my last name, but I was just like, you know what? A lot, bosses, I guess, to the sweet and to the point. So, yes, guys, feel free to follow us if you like to, or if you want to ever, DM us for, just pick our brains or something like that. Please, by all means.
Absolutely. So I hope you enjoyed your seat at the coach's table. I still don't know if I want to stick to saying that. It's kind of corny, but
I love it. You love it too.
it's in there.
It's gonna catch on.
All right.
Peace out, guys.